Welcome back and happy Tuesday. We are coming to you from Sundance, Utah, in a gorgeous space, and I am here with a longtime friend, Omar Hatamleh, and we're going to be talking about cross-industry innovation. So Omar, thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
This is something that you and I have spent hours talking about, if not days, over the course of a long period of time. What does cross-industry innovation mean to you, and why is it important?
So if you look at the emerging technologies and the advances we're having now in all the technological aspects across different industry lines, you will find a lot of synergy actually. The basic application might be different, but the technology itself and the basic science that goes into it, it's very synergistic, and it has a lot of commonalities across different companies. And so there's value now is understanding what's happening in different sectors and being able to engage. I can give you the example of the 3D printer, for example. It was a technology intended to produce components and parts, and now it has incredible applications and applicabilities into producing potentially 3D printed organs. It can create actually clothing. You can do food with it. You can create, clothing, construction. It's an industry spanning across so many different aspects, so many different sectors. And that's what the value and the beauty of the cross industries is one technology now. The lines are blurring between different ones and becoming something that applies all across the board. So, and also not in terms of technology itself, when you work with different people across different technologies and different industries, you tend to have different perspectives, because all of us we're narrowed into the way that the industry we've been working there for years. So we tend to have a specific aspect of looking at things. But when you involve people from very different very different industries, I think the perspectives you'll be getting is very different compared to anything you'll get in your complete industry.
Yeah, and part of that is, and you mentioned this and highlighted it, but you could have the brightest, most intelligent, educated people who are experts in their space, but as humans, we still get caught up and siloed in our thinking in our area, and so the idea of bringing in outside perspectives is revolutionary. So you've talked about many different examples, but let's talk a little bit more about Acceptation and how that has been applied in innovation, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so before we talk about Acceptation, let's just give a quick definition about Acceptation. So Acceptation is basically something that was a function or something that was invented or created for one component, and then it was completely used and co-opted for something else, right? And there's ton of examples. One of them is there's a freeway company that just created the freeway, and they were promising that we're going to have cars running at certain speed. You're never going to go below that speed, and then they were never able to do that one, because the more cars get into it, it's very difficult to control the speed and the range. So what they did is they borrowed something from the airline business, and the airline business essentially is the more tickets you sell, the tickets go up in price. So they implemented that specific methodology. So the more people got into the freeway, the prices kept going up, and it became prohibitively expensive when there was a chance it would impact the speed of the cars on that freeway. You can use, for example, another example of CT scans in a hospital. So there was a children's hospital that children were going and having CT scans and MRIs. And obviously it's a scary experience with the noises and the machines. It's not a pleasant thing. So a lot of kids were being nervous and they were moving, and every time you move, obviously you have to redo the imaging again, which is bad for extra radiation and so on. And then it produces longer flows between people, and so it cannot process as many people there. So what they did is they co-opted something from a completely different industry, from the entertainment industry. So they created a movie where kids look into that movie, and it's an experience for them. And essentially explains that it's going to be an adventure, and the CT scan or MRI machine is going to be their vessel crossing the channel, And once you cross the channel, you're going to be able to actually to get a prize, open a chest and get a prize. So by doing something very, very simple like that, it solved all the issue. And there's so many examples. But actually, when you go back to even to nature, I don't know, but the feathers on the birds were intended for thermal regulation. They were not intended for flying, and then co-opted with evolution and with time to be able to use from flying. So essentially it's a biological term that has been co-opted for technical and business aspects.
So even with some of the stuff, the work that we've collaborated on to this point, when you think about executives, what are 2 or 3, if you had a time with them in an elevator to say, here's how you can accelerate, your innovation initiatives, what would that be? What would you tell executives?
Well, it's several things. First of all, diversity. I mean, get out of the groupthink. The groupthink is a killer to a lot of ideas. If we go to any corporation, typically it's like-minded individuals that have been working with that industry for a long time. So if you want to do strategy, you want to come up with new ideas, you're going to solve problems, I recommend diversity. The more diverse the group, the better results you're going to be able to get. And diversity in so many aspects, in education, in gender, and geographical location, in technical backgrounds. The more diverse your crowd is, it's an order of magnitude in the amount of the progress, and you're going to be able to do it in that perspective. And then leverage on open innovation. Open innovation is disrupting all the industries, disrupting the amount of, or the skill sets needed for each corporation. 75% of the most successful solutions come from completely different industries. So basically, with these open tools, you can have leverage to hundreds of thousands of potentially millions of people, one of the most brightest people around the world, and have them work for you and provide value and solutions and results, and take your company or corporation or industry to substantially higher level by leveraging on millions of people from the crowds.
And on that diversity note, one thing that I know that's a very passionate topic of yours, and you're going to be really building on that with Ecosystems 2030. So can you just tell us real quickly what that is?
Yeah. So how the internet was the technology essentially, and from that technology we had $7.something trillion in economies and new ecosystems. So now we're looking into what's going to be the next emerging technologies and what ecosystems will be created around them. What do people in different academia and industry and different aspects have to adapt and transform to remain relevant in incredible fast technological transformation and evolution. So the idea is to see what's happening in the next decade, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and so people can have an idea to be able to adapt, transform, to remain relevant. Otherwise, we'll be completely marginalized.
Exactly. So you can find more about Ecosystems 2030 on the link below. There's a list of great speakers. What I love about it is the idea of bringing in very diverse and unique perspectives, and even industries coming together to talk about topics that's going to directly impact all of us in the future. And you will hear more about Omar's background as well. As always, a pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you so much. Until next week.